the loan is cancelled with the Shemitah year. However, that if you might say it's almost like an ingenious way. Are we okay? Yeah, we've got others coming through. You might say that it's almost like you're bypassing the rule. Yes, but it's a permitted way of bypassing Shemitah.
No, I understand that. Yeah, that I
So
understood.
you're right. Obviously, it's and one of the reasons why they're quite keen to, because they want people to continue lending money, and therefore but that's not the rule. The point is you're making a condition. You can always give, as we said before, a gift. The idea is that you should be giving. If there is a loan, the loan will cancel. If you have the straightforward loan, it will be cancelled with Shemitah year. However, if you make a condition and saying, if you said Shemitah will not apply to this, well, you can't do that. But what you can say is, are you prepared that I will not, or the person receiving the money, I won't mind if you come claiming the loan from me, or I will repay it to you on condition that I won't, if you like, give it to you back as a loan. I can give you a gift. I can always, whatever I like, I can give you. So you're making condition that the rule of Shemitah, and don't forget, when it comes to monetary points, you can make conditions against the Torah. In other words, it's not going against the Torah. You can't make a condition against other rules which are not financial, but you can make a financial condition, which bypasses the Torah, because it can always become a gift. Now, you're right, Malcolm, as you wrote, the idea is that people should feel it's on the statute books. And if there's small amounts of money, maybe people will lend, and the ending will be prior to the repayment date will be prior to Shemitah, or a smaller amount. If person's lending, they'd be prepared to forego it. The loan, unless one takes actions, then the loan will be cancelled in Shemitah. But because it's a financial matter, obviously, you can make that condition and say, well, I will still, I'm giving you a loan, but I do expect it to, on condition that in fact Shemitah will not apply, meaning that you will repay it. And if you agree to that, I'm prepared to give it to you. Others won't give you a loan.
Yeah.
It may not be ideal. Ideally, maybe the person should be giving and just losing the money. But, if it's a lot of money, people may not be prepared to do that. If it's a small amount of money, and it's a very nice way to actually almost like, give your charitable contributions in this way, and that's fine. If you wanted to make a gift to a needy individual, then it's a very nice way to say, I'm giving you a loan, and actually Shemitah will cancel it. So it will happen automatically. And that's, rather than say, I'm giving you a gift, I'm giving you a loan, but after Shemitah, of course, we won't reclaim it. So okay. It's a nice way of, as I say, giving someone money rather than saying, I'm giving you a gift, which may be not so embarrassing. I'm giving you a loan, and then let's see how things go. Okay. And so, he's prepared to forego the loan, because it's obviously the loan that we're giving here. It's not the loan that he's prepared to, wants to back a horse or something. He's giving him a loan. And the idea is it's someone who needs that loan. Well, I'm giving you this as a loan. And then obviously he will forego it. He knows at the back of my mind, at the back of his mind, he will forego that loan. But if the person does want to come and give it, he can repay the loan. So therefore you have that opportunity to say, or to make this condition, say, I'm giving you on condition that you will repay me. You can't say that the rule of Shemitah doesn't apply, but you just say you will repay me.
Yeah, I just had I think my problem with it was on what you mean by a condition. Actually, it was a sort of a definitional thing. Okay, so you have a rule of Shemitah which
Yes,
applies, and you don't change that, you know.
yes.
And if you use the word condition, to me in English, that means that's hard and fast. So, you know, it's sort of almost contractual, almost, because you're saying you're not just saying, you know what, I might feel generous after the break and
No,
I
no,
give you a
you're quite
present. You
right.
know, it's a condition. So in that
Yes,
sense, if you have a condition, you have sort of basically, my point was that you're basically saying that you will repay the loan, even though you are
yes.
going to define it not as repaying the loan. You're defining it really as a gift, which has nothing to do with the loan, but it just happens to
No,
be the same amount. You
but
know,
that's a
and
perfectly legal way of doing it. That there's nothing wrong with that.
well,
Um,
well
so, in
then
other words, the Shemitah is there unless you make conditions to the contrary. Shemitah will cancel a loan. That's what we're saying. You can make conditions to the contrary, and that's fine. Nobody's saying that's bad. But if
well,
you don't put anything in place, a loan will be cancelled. That's really what we're saying.
okay, but then it could be the case that it does the opposite of what the rule of the Shemitah is supposed to be, because it could be that the person really needs a loan,
Yes,
and the only way they're going to get it is that they undertake that condition because they know that that's the situation, and you know
that's
that
perfectly
human
allowed.
nature.
That's perfectly allowed.
Well,
Absolutely
yeah,
allowed.
but well then
When
it
you
seems
say it's normally against the rule. I mean, the person has to be prepared to give that loan. Nobody's asked in Shemitah to spend money which they themselves would not want to lose. Yeah. If somebody's got money, they just won't make a loan. They can't afford. Nobody can afford to make a large loan. Somebody who can, or somebody really who would be prepared to give somebody that money, and they wanted to make a charitable donation, then the way to do it would say, "I'm giving you a loan." It will be cancelled. So it's not bypassing. The rules are, unless you make a condition to the contrary, and you can do that, then Shemitah will come in. So perhaps that's the best way to look at it.
But I sort of read, because I was reading about the Prosbul thing,
Yes,
and I read that there are views that are critical of it. You know, that there are critical views that think that it is a sort of way around something, that it is not an ideal
I don't know where you say it's
arrangement.
critical. I
Well,
mean,
I mean, people that not every it's not sort of just accepted as that.
Yeah, perhaps you can send me a
I think it
source
was
of
in the
that,
Jewish
because
Encyclopedia, actually. I read it in the Jewish
no, yeah,
Encyclopedia.
but who are they quoting from? Because
Exactly. I don't know what the source was.
it's not the
Well, it
standard
always
is
brings like
it's
this. I
Hillel.
mean, the Eruv has got all this controversy. People are always there's always somebody who oppose something. It's not a. I don't
No,
think it's.
that's rather different. If they're opposing it on halachic grounds, and there are certain leniencies maybe people are taking, but otherwise,
But the opposition.
well, you say it's
It's
against
also
the
halachic, isn't
spirit.
it?
You can say it's against the spirit, but
Yeah.
this Hipruzbel is an institution of Hillel and accepted in halacha without any question, really. It'd be interesting to see who, when you say that people are unhappy about using a prusbul. Prusbul is, it's a standard document, and it really, again, it's not bypassing. It's an institution of, making an institution of what is always permitted. That's all. He's saying a
It's
loan
widely accepted throughout the whole of the Haredi or the
anywhere. I mean, a prusbul
Some
would be.
Probably it is.
Yeah, it's mentioned in that Hillel. Whether you call him a Haredi or he was someone.
No, but nowadays I'm talking about now.
No, yeah, very much so. Very
There's
much so.
no dissent. There's no dissenters.
No, don't there's anybody will dissent. Any dissent on using a prusbul. What is he? I mean, if Hillel himself instituted it, that people don't want to go against that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I tell the reason I'm probably is that sometimes when you have a thing like that, it's because it's helping you to be lenient. That's, for example, the thing on Pesach, when you're allowed to sell your chametz, but nevertheless
Yes.
keep it in your domain,
Yes.
because that's a sort of workaround
Oh,
situation.
that's not again a lenient. I mean, it's no. I see what you're saying. It's
Okay.
not a leniency. I mean,
No.
it's perfectly permitted. If you're selling it and take the document back, as long as it is a
Yes.
proper sale and
Okay.
and the person who's purchasing understands what it's all about and wants, then it is a sale. But that's less. The prusbul is much stronger, or this condition is much stronger. You're making a condition saying that I want this loan to be repaid, and you can do that because what you're saying, because it's monetary, you can make such conditions. It's perfectly legitimate. That's fine. Or the prusbul idea, in making an institution of having a prusbul, and that will ensure everybody gets their loans that need it, and they're not concerned. As I say, not everybody can afford to give loans and actually lose the loan. So it's good for everybody. The wealthier people are making their loans, not scared they're going to lose all the money, and then the people who need the loans are getting the money they need. So it's just making an institution of it rather than just a standard thing you could do. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm being a bit thick because I still
Yeah.
I still can't get it, because if you're saying that it's basically doing the opposite.
Let's make it simpler. The rule, if there's anything to do with finances.
Yeah, why is it finance? Why does that a special case?
Because it's money. Anything to do with money, you can make a condition and not have it apply. It's as simple as that. And they learn that out from various places. It's called a masne amashe kosa batora. It's a dober sheba momoin, something to do with money. You're allowed to, perfectly legitimate, to set up a condition against the Torah on financial matters. Because as I say, you've always got this gift point. You can always give it to them anyway. So therefore, it's almost like meaningless. Yeah. If you want to, you're right. The idea is that, let's say, loans that people can afford to give and are prepared to lose the money, they should go ahead and do that. Fine. A great way, as I say, to make a charitable contribution. Is a point from Simon coming in here? No. Just with Sir Simon.
I don't want to spend too much.
No. I mean, that's the point. A condition, if it's on a monetary matter.
Is there a comparable?
Yeah, you can't make a condition, not to pay somebody, for a goods you've bought. You can't do that. But you can make conditions where the Torah is stipulating that the loan is cancelled. You can say, no, we want the loan to continue. And you could do that. Yeah, on financial. But I'm happy to follow that up, if you like, with something further. So what we finished last week with the Gemara saying that a standard loan, unless there's anything that's been said specifically, and if no mention has been made of how long the loan's going to be for, a minimum would be 30 days. Yeah. So if there's a loan given without any mention of how long, you cannot come back 3 days later. The lender cannot come back 3 days later and say, I want my money back. I mean, you can try it if you want. So I'd like to have my money back, please. But the borrower can always say, well, you didn't tell me you wanted it after 3 days. Therefore, I assumed at least 30 days. And that is acceptable because a standard loan, unless stipulated otherwise, would be at least 30 days. And therefore, the borrower can certainly say, I didn't expect to have to pay it back so soon. That's how we finished last week. And then we're up to the point here, which is about 12 lines up. The beginning of the line is Echod Malva Bishtar. Have you got that? Gimel Amud base. Right. About 12 lines up. Actually, exactly 12 lines up from the end of the Omud on Daf Gimel on the base. And if you see it says Echod Malva Bechel Shvam Al Peh, and the middle of that line it says Omar le Shmuel Rav Masna. Shmuel said to Rav Masna, Lo Tesav Akar Eich, which means don't sit down. Actually, karach means on your knees. It means really, can you, I don't want you to do anything further, but please explain to me, ad the mafarshus li, or the mafarshus law, until you explain it to me, lahor shmaitza. This statement that we learned last week, the previous line, which was, is there any link at all to a minimum of 30 days, some type of link, a posuk, Menoho Milsa, where is the source of this matter? The Omar Rabbonon, beginning of the line is Rabbonon. Hamalve Eschavero Stam, if someone just lends money to his friend, a stam means without specifically mentioning a time frame. He cannot claim it back before. He can always knock on the door and say, any chance of my loan being repaid? But the borrower can say, I didn't expect you to come back that quickly, that soon. I do need a bit more time, and that's perfectly allowed. Because otherwise he should have said at the beginning, he should have said this loan really is just for the weekend. You need a couple of bob, as they say, over the weekend. I'm lending you this money. That you can do. But he's asking him, Shmuel is asking Rav Masna, do you know any source of that principle of the 30-day rule? Yeah. And then Gemara continues, Echot Hamalve Bishtar, beginning of the line, whether it's documented. Maybe it was just a verbal agreement, hopefully with witnesses too. But all it was is when the money was handed over, there were witnesses there to see he lent him the money, but there was no mention of time. Says the Gemara, and that's the link to our Shemitah as well. Omale Dichsiv, the Posuk says, here is the Posuk in Devarim 15:9. Actually, it plays very much to Malcolm's point. Can we quickly have that? Devarim 15:9. So I say, Malcolm, back to your point. The idea is, if people can, they should make loans, but you'll see some extra wording in this posuk. Let's have a look at that 15:9 in Devarim coming up. Thank you, Peter. Deuteronomy 15:9. Talking about the Shemitah. There we are. Hishom Melacha. A negative thought, base thought. And he says, and you will feel, say you'll be mean, he says here, and you won't give a don't, and I'm not prepared to give him the money because of Shemitah. Don't do that. So if you can, do what you can to lend him the money. As we said before, you can make a condition with it, but don't stop lending money because Shemitah is coming. But the point here is, it says Kovo Shanas Hasheva, the 7th year, and this whole parasha is dealing with the Shemitah, and then again it calls it Shanas Hashmitah, the Shemitah year. Well, I mean, that's exactly what this is all about, the 7th year. Why that repetition? Why is there wording here which says Korvo Shnas Hasheva and a repetition Shnas Hashmitah? Okay, go back please to our Gemara. So it's just the wording of the posuk. Says the Gemara, mi mashma, I suppose you say the inference much might sounds like it hears the hearing of the word. I know that the 7th year is the Shemitah year. Why does the Torah mention Shanas HaShemitah as well? Shanas HaShemitah. Elo ma Talmud loy mashnas HaShemitah. Loy malocho, to tell you, yesh Shemitah acheres shehi kazu. If you can put people on, yeah. Thank you. There is another type of loosening your grip on money that you've lent. There's the full Shemitah, but there's another loosening. What? Yeah, shehu kozu. It's like the Shemitah, the 7th year. There's another type of loosening your grip. But this time you're not loosening it entirely, but this is ve'ezu ha'malve es chaveroi stam. What that means is if you're lending somebody, there's just, sounds like it's an asmachta, it's just a hint to this from this pasuk. So what we're saying is this: there's another occasion when you've lost your grip for a certain, this is not the full Shemitah where you've lost your grip entirely, unless you've put something in place, a principle or something else, but there's another type of loan where you've lost your grip. And what is that? It's called Shanas HaShemitah, another year of Shemitah. In fact, it's not a full year. It's where you've lent something, or not something, you've lent money to someone without stipulating a time, then you've also lost your grip on that money. It's not a year, it's actually just 30 days. Okay, Zet will have a look at this in a second. Va'ezu, first wide line, he cannot reclaim the money. So interesting. What we're learning here, this repetition is telling us there's another type of loosening your grip. That's what shomot means, to loosen your grip on a loan. But this time you're not loosening it entirely, but you're loosening it in as much as you cannot claim it. And that's because there's no time mentioned. There is a minimum amount of time that you've lost your grip. And says the Gemara, but why 30 days? To Omar ma shloshim yom bashana choshev shana. Very interesting halacha. Worth having a look, please, at Vayikra 19.
Did we have this in a previous Musaf?
We did. Well remembered. Someone, yes, excellent.
Someone. I've got it. My name's Mervyn, by the way.
Oh, sorry, I couldn't see you. Oh, well, you can't see you. Yeah. Oh, you're right. Okay, that's Mervyn. A couple of people we can't see. Yeah, Mervyn, thank you. Quite right. Now, have we got? Oh, keep 19. Keep scrolling down to about 20-ish, also 20. That's where it's learned from. But a bit more. Maybe it's Shomo 21, 22. Well, are we in chapter 19? Yeah, we are. Here we are. 23. And you plant 8 ma'achol, edible trees for food. For aralta morosa is pilio, which means it's forbidden for 3 years, and it can't be eaten until you get to Pasuk 24. But in the 4th year, then it's holy. And you make that's called neta of the 4th year, ravoi, and the 5th year you start eating it. So what happens? Go back again. You've got 3 years. Sholosh shonim, for 3 years. The tree, the fruit that come from the tree, very early days, of course, after the planting, cannot be used, forbidden for you to eat the fruit. The fourth year, you would take it up to Yerushalayim. That's what it means. It's it calls here jubilation, Hillel, from Hallel, praising Hashem by taking it to Yerushalayim. But those Sholosh Shonim, how do you work out the Sholosh Shonim? And as Mervyn mentioned, we had that Gemara in Rosh Hashanah. The Sholosh Shonim, we learn, and there's another occasion where it talks about me Reshis Hashona ve'adachris Shona. So the years, it goes, it's a year starting Rosh Hashanah, but it says Sholosh Shonim, and the Gemara learns out in Rosh Hashanah that it says, yes, it's got to finish at a Rosh Hashanah, and it's got to be 3 years, but in fact, you can get away with 2 years and part of a year. And normally years are counted in months. A whole year would be counted in months. Like a month will be counted, you say a days that make up a month. You'd say months that make up a year. In other words, you've also got the idea of shana, shnayim too, where you've got something recurring, and that's of course with the month, the monthly cycle. You've got the yearly cycle, a monthly cycle. So 3 years, actually, yes, it's got to come to, because you've got to get to uvar shana haravius. You've got to get to that 4th year. But in fact, you don't need 3 full years, and the 3 are actually 2 years and a month. And the Gemara learned that out. So go back to Pasuk 23. Sholosh Shonim, for 3 years, it's forbidden. That's called orla, not to be touched, not to be eaten. But in fact, the 3 years is 2 years and a month. So just like we find this idea of a month classifying, it's already counted as a year, we use the same principle here. That's Shloshim Shona Vashona Choshuv Shona. Yeah. So we're saying that back to the looking at everyone. Yeah. Thank you, Peter. Yes, thank you. So just as over there, we find this principle that a month is already counted as a year as far as the 3-year cycle, or not the cycle, it's a 3 years build up of the fruits. Similarly, here we're saying that a 30 days, where that posuk said, remember, Shanas Hashemitah, there's another occasion where you'll be loosening your grip. And the minimum we've got of this shona, it's already classified as a year. Once it's been in, they're growing the tree, the sapling, once it's been grown for a month. In other words, if it's grown before Rosh Chodesh Elul, then already by the time you get to Rosh Hashanah, it will be classified as a year. So a month is the minimum amount which is already counted as a year. Of course, it's not a year, but it's counted as a year. We're saying the same thing here. There's another Shnas HaShmitah. There's a minimum amount which is classified already as, I know it's only part of a year, but it's the parts that make up the year. And therefore, what we're saying, there's a hint in that posuk that if someone makes a loan, that they are loosening their grip for part of the year. What part of the year? Which is actually classified as a year in other instances, it's 30 days. So what we're saying here is, without stipulating a time, 30 days would be the minimum of a loan, and therefore the person who's borrowed the money can say, I didn't expect to repay this any earlier. Okay? That's the end of that part. And now we move on to something completely different. But look at the Gemara. Five lines up. Va'omar Rab Yehuda Omar Rav. Now, this has got nothing to do with what we've been learning about previously. But notice it's Rabbi Yehuda Omar Rav. There's a question, in other words, a statement from Rabbi Yehuda with a question from Rav Kahana, and that's similar as we've had before. That's the link. Rashi will tell us that in a minute. Okay. So look at this further statement. We often find that if it's the same person who's made a statement previously, and it's a statement from Rabbi Yehuda with a question from Rav Kahana. There are a couple of examples like that in the Gemara. So therefore, we will put them next to each other, although there's no link between these cases other than the name of the individual the statement. In this case, it's Rabbi Yehuda. Are you with me? So don't worry about this. Got nothing to do with Makos, nothing to do with Shemitah, but it's the same person we spoke about before, Rabbi Yehuda. Hello. Yeah, thank you, Peter. Omar Rabbi Yehuda Omar. 5 lines up. Same person, Rabbi Yehuda. Before it was Rabbi Yehuda Omar Shmuel, but it was always a question coming back. But Omar Rabbi Yehuda Omar Rav, Hapuseach Beis Savor B'Shabbos Chayav Chatos. We're into Hilchos Shabbos here. Someone who opens the Beis Savor, the neck. Beis Savor. When it says the neck, what does it mean? In other words, a person's got like a t-shirt, but the top actually doesn't have the hole to where he can actually put his head into that shirt. That's really what we're talking about here. But a person makes that hole, the Pesach, the entrance, that he can now place his head into this shirt, t-shirt or something similar to that. If a person does that and makes that hole on Shabbos, so he's got a beautiful, say, a shirt, but it doesn't have, he wants to put it over his head, but there's no Pesach there, no entrance, no way he can actually place it over his head. So he makes that hole. He's chayav chatos for that. Have a look at Rashi, please. Ha-poseach beis tzavor. A place for an opening for his neck and really for his head to go through, and then eventually this shirt will sit round his neck, but there was no hole there. Have a look at Rashi. It's a new, like I say, a shirt, a t-shirt, a cloak. Really, it's a choluk, but it doesn't have a Pesach, an opening for him to place his head through, and so it should sit. The top should sit around his neck. If he makes that hole, chayav, he would be chayav a chatos. A chatos is normally if the avera is min haTorah, done accidentally, he didn't know, then he would be chayav a chatos. That is considered a malacha. Says Rashi, shetikein keli. As we know, there are 39 basic, what they call ovos, heads of malachas. After that, they all would stand and continue through. That they're called toldos, actually, like coming through the next generation. But no, there are 39 headings of malacha, all learned from the building of the Mishkan. Now, one of them is tikkun keli, which means finishing off an item, be masaking a keli, and that would be a malacha. So that we're saying the same thing happens here. Before we go any further, Rashi just tells us why we're discussing this topic at all. Why does it mention this here? We're in the middle of Makos. Yeah, we'd have discussed Shemitah, but what's it got to do with this subject? Got to do with the rest of the Masechta. Mishum da Omer Rabbi Yehuda le'el. It was Rabbi Yehuda who said right at the beginning of this Gemara, Hamal ve'es chaver le'eser shonim. That's where we joined this subject. Somebody lending money for 10 years. Remember, it went across the Shemitah. There was not going to be a claim. That's where we came in. And on that, Oisvei Rav Kahana, it was Rav Kahana who asked him a question. Therefore, Nokat Nami Lukulu Hanach Mili Dishmatin. The Gemara takes other examples, all these other examples that we're mentioning in this Gemara, where other instances to Omrinu Rav Yehuda, where Rav Yehuda made the statement, and the person questioning that statement was Rav Kahana. So we've got them all in one place here, not that many actually, just these 3 or 4. And therefore, we've got them here. The next one actually is to do with mikvois, a totally different topic. But again, it's the same person. And of course, as we knew, it was Torah Shebal Peh. It's all oral. So it's a nice, neat way to try and remember these few statements where Rabbi Yehuda makes a statement, Rav Kahana asks, there is an answer, but that's the dialogue between those two individuals. So that's why we get this statement here. So he's made a fairly straightforward point. If you've got a shirt, no actual space for the head, no entrance for the head, and a person makes that hole, that Pesach, that will be considered a tikkun keli. You're remedying or making something into a usable item. That is considered a malacha on Shabbos, and in which case, if it would be done accidentally, it would be chayev achatos. Person didn't know that was halacha. Says Rav Kahana, maskif lo Rav Kahana, v'chima bein zeh l'megufas chovis. What's the difference between this case of Rav Kahana and what's a megufas chovis? Chovis is a barrel. Megufas is a lid. If you have a barrel and you have a lid on top, as we'll see, and we'll see the Rashi, you are allowed to, on Shabbos, to remove that top entirely from the barrel. Right? You just throw that away. And you've got the barrel now that you can use wine or whatever was in the barrel. Have a look at Rashi. V'chima bein zeh. This is the question Rav Kahana asked. What's the difference? The T-shirt making the hole, and here mugufas chovis, which means the top of the barrel. Do omrinon beperek chovis shenishbara. A perek in Shabbos, a barrel that broke. It's a whole perek on Shabbos. What you're allowed to do, matiz roisha b'Shabbos b'sayif. You can have some implement, could be a knife, sword. It's not always a sword, but it's some type of knife. You just take off the top. Liftoach es hachovis. To open up the barrel, and then you can now pour from the barrel. That is permitted, the Gemara says, in Shabbos. Now, what's the difference between taking off and making, now I have the top of the barrel, I've got now the Pesach, if you like, I can pour from that barrel. Before, and I couldn't because there was the top on, I say you had the mugufa on top, the top of the barrel. It's removed, and therefore I'm now pouring from the barrel. Where in the case that seems to be permitted, but what's not permitted is making a hole in this cloak that you want to place over your head. And Malcolm, I think, has got an answer for this.
But they're totally different situations, because one of them is the barrel is designed to be shut and then opened, and then the other one is not. So it's complete. This hasn't been completed.
Right, yeah, but absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Very good indeed. Says the Gemara, not so much the usage of them, but you've got a barrel anyway. The barrel has the opening. what they've done, they've just placed something on top. So just remove it. Yeah.
Well,
Even
necessarily.
it's interesting. We'll have a look at the Rashi. Have a look at the Gemara first. Omalei ze chibur v'ze eino chibur. So interesting. Did you notice that it says Omalei? In my Gemara, I got a little note round the side telling me that there's some people who put the word Rava because it was always Rava who answered in those previous statements, but that doesn't matter. The main point is the answer to those, the comparison of those two cases is one's got a chibur, one has not got a chibur. Have a look at Rashi.
I mean, that's not always the case. There's some case of chovis, the gufas chovis are made of lime or sid or cyanide or tifus. There are other cases, you know, the Yayanessa, they speak about whether they're not necessarily open and they're not flat like necessarily. It has to define what you gufas chovis.
Yes, you're quite right. You're right, and it may well be that the questioner was thinking, we're talking here, are we not talking about a barrel which doesn't have a top? In other words, it's made and you'd have to make the Pesach yourself. But look how the Gemara answers. The Gemara is saying, no, the only time it will be permitted is, look at the Rashi, please, Zeh. Have you got that Zeh? 15 lines up or so. Zeh, the base tzavor. Remember the space for the neck where those people, Michael, Gimel on base, about 15 lines up in Rashi. We're comparing the making a perforation, making a hole in the the top of a cloak or a vest, so your head can then come through. You can place it around the neck. Says Rashi, Zeh the base tzavor, the case with the neck, your head coming through, hoyo chibur, it was connected. Hilkoch, that Pesach, if you now make a hole, a place where you can put your head, an opening, tikkun chodoshu, it's a new tikkun. You've actually completed this, as we say, whether it's a vest or a cloak. That's why it's permitted. But the point about with the barrel, and that's the point Mervyn just made, it's only under this circumstance, like Hamagufo, where we were talking about removing the top of the barrel. That's a point that Malcolm made. It might be cemented even. You've cemented the top. In other words, we're talking about a case where there was a barrel with the top of the barrel an open top. You've now cemented a top part to close the barrel. Have a look at Rashi. So you've got the cement. Ein zeh chibur. You can't say it's one item. It's a barrel with a cemented top. V'havalei kumav. He says it's waiting to be opened. It's got this opening. So what you can do is just say with a knife, you can remove that top, because the top was only placed there, as I say, to ensure nothing would come out of the barrel. But the barrel had the opening already. And therefore, that's the difference between the two. Of course, is a huge amount of halachas on the subject of tikkun keli, what's called makah b'patish, but that's one of the malachas. But that's the point. If there is already the hole is there, but there's something been placed on top, and you just remove it. It's important though it's removed. If you have like something you just remove and you're going to throw away the top, if you're converting that into a top, that might be rather different, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about removing the top. The top was placed on, you remove the top and it's not used anymore. Otherwise, you've got to be careful you're not actually making this into a top, which isn't really, if it's connected, it might be considered a top. So you don't really want to keep that top any longer. But the point is, when it comes to the t-shirt, that's a hole which was not there before. It was closed. and therefore that's why on Shabbos you cannot make that hole in the vest. That's the difference there. And then we move on to another case. And for this, we will have to again call on Peter. V'omar Rav Yehuda Omar Rav. A case of mikvois. Shloishes lugin mayim shenofal l'soichon kortov sheliai. Now this will take, and it goes on to the next Omid, and we will not complete this anything like, but we hopefully will make a start on this topic of mikvois. Again, nothing to do with our Gemara and Makkas, but let's, if I can call upon, if you have a look, actually going back, I wanted to mention when you spoke about, Mervyn mentioned the point about Shloshim Yom Kashona Choshev Shona, 6 lines up in the Gemara. If you look at the superscript there, I've got a letter Ches, so you may have another letter, which takes me to the side at the top of the Gemara, and that's where it mentions Rosh Hashanah Daf Yud Amud Beis. So you're quite right, that's what comes from that Gemara that we had a long time ago in Rosh Hashanah Daf Yud Amud Beis, a couple of years ago, I suppose. Yeah, so that was the point you mentioned about Shloshim Yom. And now why do I tell you about pointing out where you can always see these superscripts? There's another nice superscript, Omar Rav Yud Omar Rav Shloishes Lugin, as an introduction to this. There's a little, I've got a Yud. Have you got a superscript, a Yud, next to the word Shloishes? 4 lines up? No? You have. Malcolm's got the thumbs up. That Yud takes me to the other side of the top of the Gemara. And if you follow down that letter, it's a letter system which tells me all the sources in Shulchan Aruch or the Rambam. I'm looking at letter Yud, which happens also have a little Chof base next to it because it's the 22nd source of this perek. And that tells me where to look in the Rambam. But what I'm looking at is Tur Shulchan Aruch, Yoredeh, Siman, Reish, Aleph, Si'if, Chof, Gimel. But let's have a look at this Reish, Aleph. It's one Siman in Shulchan Aruch dealing with mikvahs, but as you can imagine, it's a very long chapter. Have a look. Siman Reish Aleph. So if I can call upon you, Peter, this time we'll go to Shulchan Aruch. So Tanakh, no. Go back to texts. No, up to texts. And this time let's go to Halacha. Yes. Mishnah Torah Shulchan Aruch. We want Yoredeh. Before you go, look what it's all about. Rituals, slaughter, kashrus, conversion, mourning, nidot, tzedakah, laws applicable, right? Okay, that's Yoredeh. So that's what we want. We actually want chapter 201. We want paragraph 23, but let's just go to the beginning of 201. Oh, stop there. Let's have a look. The introduction. Have a look at the top. This is word Siman 201, Reish Aleph. And this is called Dinei HaMikvah Umeimov. The rules about a mikveh itself and the water that's going to be used in the mikveh. What makes it kosher, what doesn't, etc. And now look at the rest of it. It says, Uboy, in this chapter, there are Ein Hei Seifim, branches, which means paragraphs. There are 75 paragraphs. So it's a very long siman, and it's all about the mikveh. That is the only siman about the mikveh. So it's a long chapter. So let's start off, and then we'll take various points from this. Ein ha'isha ola mitumasa. A lady who's become a niddah, she will then rise from her tumah birachitza b'merchutz. It's just having, utilizing a bath will not give her tahara from being a tomei niddah. Afilu olu oleha kol meimos sheba olam. Just a way of saying, even if all the water in the world came on her, adayin hi b'tumasa, Not only that, chayov imoleo kores, for relationship with nidor chayiv kores, ad shetitboil kol gufa, her whole body immersed, bevas achas. That's important. You can't have like one hand, then another hand. It's got to be all at once. B'mei mikvah, learned of course from Psukim and the Torah, mei mikvah. Oy mayon. Mine is like a, not quite a fountain, but something like a
spring.
Spring, that's the word I'm looking for. Thank you very much, sir. Spring water. Sheyesh bohem mem so'or. That has 40 saw. So you have a mikveh which has 40 saw, not that much. Shiura, actually you can get into an amor by an amor of 3 amos b'meruba, 1, 1, 3. And he tells you what an amor. An amor is bashishot fochim v'chetzi atzpa. Okay, v'chetzi etzba. Okay, so in other words, the size of 1 amor, about, let's say, 50 centimeters, 48, 50, 60, somewhere around that. It's 1 by 1 by 3. That size would hold 40 saw of water. Okay, and that should be enough to cover that. That's the size of a kosher mikveh. If someone is a giant or whatever, or should we say not so much a giant, but a large person who finds difficulty actually immersing, then they would have to have a larger mikveh. Now that's quite small. 1 amma by 113 that's not much. 1 amma. It's as we say, amma is like half a meter by half a meter by 1.5 meters. That's not a lot, but that is a minimum size mikveh. Of course, if you were tov kalim as well. Keep going. Im yechola lehiskasos kol gufa. If she can cover all her body, bohen bavasachas, must be once. Okay, that's all we need from there. Right. Let's scroll down a bit. A couple of other halachas we want to see. Stop. There's your spring water. Oh, it's a mikveh should be stationary. Spring water, your main mine, a fountain, spring water doesn't have to be. That's very important. Actually, spring water can even be on the move. Zoichelim, megashomim, ein. We'll talk about that. Rainwater, beshberim means it's got to be stationary. Keep scrolling down. Any other points we need before we can understand this next piece of Gemara? Keep going more. Yeah, next paragraph. We're up to paragraph 3 now out of the 75. We're not going to do all 75. The next, this is important. Yes. How do you get these 40 saw that we spoke about? Yeah, that's a volume. Remember the volume 1 amma by 1 amma by 3 ammas. Tzorich shelo yihu shu'uvim. Shu'uv, drawing water, remember? With Rivka drawing the water. She'im haim peshu'uvim pesulim. If it's drawn water, it's possible. Okay? Right, keep going. Scroll a bit further, bit more. 4. Bit more, 5. Let's have a look what 5 is. 5 useful for us. Yeah, all he says, kol mayom, all waters. Yes, they have a rule of a spring. We don't need that. Keep going. No, it shouldn't be in a keli. That's the point. It's got to be on the ground. Right, no, we don't need that. 7, we don't need 8. Well, do we? No. No, this is all about the actual item. Keep going. Mayon mikveh. No, we don't need it. We don't need this. Keep going. No, a bit more. Quite a lot more, actually. No. Up to 14. We've got to get to 20. 50. Mikveh. Oh, what's that one about? Hold on. That's it looks like an important one for us. This, yes, that's very important. A mikveh sheyesh ba'aboim saw. Once you've got that magic number of 40 saw, we'll leave out the spring, that's a different halacha. Yochol lishoiv kol ma sheyitze liten lesoicha. You can then pour into it drawn water as much as you like, and the mikveh will remain kosher. Even though much more than the 40 saw, you've got a huge mikveh. Keep going. I'm dropping down. Avol, the end of that line. No. Avol kol zaman she'ein b'mikveh men saw. Afilu im eino chose elo kol shehu. The smallest amount is missing from this 40 saw volume. Now, this is very important. Once 3 lug, just to tell you what a lug is, where we talk about a kiddush cup being a revius a lug, a quarter of a lug. So it would be 12 kiddush cups. You see what I mean? A kiddush cup, let's say, is different, around the 100, maybe 150 cc. So 4 of those, that 600 cc would be a lug. 600, yeah, 600 times 3, around the 1800 cc mark. If you've got that of mayim she'uvim, then it would posel the mikveh. Okay, it doesn't matter what you drew it with, or even if you squeezed out water from something else. You've got to start off with a mikveh of 40. If you do, again, once you've got your 40, you can add to it as much water as you like, drawn water. If you haven't got your 40 yet, once you've got in it 3 lug of drawn water, the mikveh is posel, and there's nothing you can do with it. Okay, drop down a bit more. Right, where are we up to now? We'll get into what further. Yeah, keep going. Next paragraph. No, we don't need that. Ma'im she'uvim. No, we don't need that. We don't need that. 18. We're getting close. 2 mikvahs. 19. 20. No, we don't need that. 21. Oh, there we are. Look at this. A mikveh shenofal l'soicha mayim she'uvim. In other words, you had the mikveh. It didn't have its 40 saw, and into it fell 3 lug. Mayim she'uvim v'nifsal. It becomes posel now, as we said before. Once you've got the 3 lug of water which was drawn in a mikveh which didn't have its 40 saw, says the Shulchan Aruch, you added to it loads of rainwater until you've got your 40 saw. It doesn't matter. It remains invalid till all the water is removed. Okay. Until, in fact, you've gone once you're less than 3 lug, that will be fine, because it's only at the 3 lug stage of water which is drawn which will puzzle the mikveh. You with me? Okay, keep going. 22. Mikveh chosed gimel. There, once if it's chosed gimel lugin, v'noflu lo gimel lugin mayim she'uvim. you can imagine on each line here, there's the amount of commentaries there are. La'olam hu b'psuloi ad sheyibu olav megasham, right? You've got to get rid of all those lugim. We won't go through that, but it's the same point again. 23. Oh, this is important. Ein gimel lugim poisim elohim kedi yushamayim umareim mare mayim. It's got to look like water and actually be water looking like, as opposed to lefichach. And this is the point we're going to get to next time. Gimel lugim mayim shenofel soichon yayin. Hari mareim kamari yayin. Now yayin does not invalidate a mikveh. So we will, don't worry, we'll come back to this point in particular about, but worth remembering. Oh yes, so we're going to be dealing with the color of the water, if that makes any difference at all. So let's go back to seeing each other. Just to conclude before we start, I'll say it will be well next week. 40 saw is the required size, the volume of the mikvah. Once you've got your 40 saw, you can add any amount of water, drawn water, not non-rain water. It won't ruin the mikvah. Once it's a mikvah, it's always a mikvah. Well, I wouldn't say always. Obviously, if the level drops down, there could be a problem. But once you've got your 40 saw, you can add to it as much as you like. If you haven't got your 40 saw yet, and that's very important, you've got to get to that 40 saw level. If you haven't got that, and you added drawn water to it, it wouldn't ruin the mikveh until you had 3 lug of drawn water. Once you've got your 3 lug of drawn water, which means non-rain water, in a mikveh which didn't have 40 saw, then you've lost it. The mikveh is invalid. You'll have to empty the water. Okay? If you are in that situation and you've got less than 40 saw and you added wine, that's fine. Wine actually doesn't make up the 40 saw, but it's not going to ruin the mikveh. Whereas drawn water which is not, as I say, from which isn't rainwater, non-rain water, if you've got 3 lug, will invalidate the mikveh.
I thought it had to be Maim Chayim.
No, not for a mikveh. If you want a spring water, it will be Maim Chayim. There are certain occasions where you do need Maim Chayim, but not for the normal mikveh. The normal mikveh is not Maim Chayim. It doesn't have to be, as we said, living water, which means spring water. There are certain instances you need spring, and you can use spring water, but the mikveh itself is rainwater. But we'll more about that as we see next time. Thank you very much, gentlemen. So are we okay for next week?
Yeah,
hopefully. Yeah, all being well. Let's finish on. Well, Peter will. Can you 1 to 121? Thank you. Shiur Lamalois.
Mein
Ezri
Osei Shamayim
Ba'oretz
Al Yitein Lamot
Israel.
Adonai Yishmerecha, Mikora Yishmorecha, Adonai Yishmorecha,
Acheinu kol beis Yisrael, hanesunim b'Torah u'v'Shivyo, ha'im dimneim b'yom havei b'yabosha, mokoim yirachim alehem v'yotzim mitzolu levocho, me'afei le'odem v'shivu ligula, hashto v'agolo v'zman koriv v'noima. Amen. Thank you very much. Let's hope for some good news. We can talk about the situation, but what do we know? Just keep the good deeds moving, the mitzvahs, the tefillos, tilim, whatever, and let's hope for good news all round.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Norman.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Peter.
Thank you.